Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, we have the Tamiya TA08 Pro, and I must admit, built as it comes out box, this thing drives absolutely amazing. But a few people have commented on the amount of flex in the chassis, which, to be totally honest, yeah, it does flex, but it works. It's done really well. The class that I race this in, you can use old X-Ray and old other brand touring car chassis, all the Tamiya kits, and it's won races against all of them. Pretty impressed with it. Really consistent lap times, and that's just how it comes out box. But in the interest of seeing if we can make it even better, we have the GPM top deck, carbon top deck. So let's bring in for a close-up look, see how this fits, and see if it alleviates some concerns about the flex in the chassis. So the kit that we've gone for is the GPM Racing. It's the Tamiya 4-wheel drive TA08 Pro 58693 carbon fibre blue aluminium sub chassis 27 piece kit. Bit of a mouthful, but let's get this open and show you what you get in the kit. So we get the actual deck itself. Now looking at this, I'm guessing it fits that way, because that kind of lines up with motor plate, and then you've got the two belt tensioners that you can fully adjust. I believe these are the standoffs, so we're gonna have like one of them at each end of the car. Then we got 4 really long screws, so it looks like the front 4 are going to go through that hole, and then you've got another 4. I'm guessing they're going to go for the rear of the 4 holes, and then we have a bunch of these little ones, and I'm not entirely sure where these go. We've got 2 holes on the side, but I'm not sure if this is designed so you can use these or not use them, in which case you then use 4 of them at either end to maybe drop this down. But we'll have to dig into it and find out. So to start with, I've just removed the motor heatsink just to make this a little easier, and then I'm going to quickly drop off this cover just so we can see what we're working with, because I don't think that cover is going to fit once we've got the top plate on. So if we have a look, if we line this up with the motor plate, as tensioners do sit on the belt fine, and it definitely looks like we're going to need these little spacers. So first off, we're going to drop out all 4 of these screws on the bulkheads, and it does look quite a complicated thing to fit this, but as I've started looking at it, it doesn't really look like it's going to be too bad. Be interesting to see how good the or how easy the tensioners are to adjust once it's on the vehicle. So from the stock kit, the bulkheads have the slightly longer screws towards the center of the RC, so all 4 of the inner ones are the long ones. It certainly helps on the back one, so you don't have to remove the body mount if you've got a angled ball driver. So again, these MIP angled drivers, they come to rescue. So you've got a slight step on the bottom of these, so the longer part goes to the inner side of the RC. So that very slight step goes to the inner side. You'll feel it when it locates in properly, and it's just because we've got a very slight lip on the back of these. So these are just to level it out and also get us the correct height. So once we've got them in place, I'm just going to try and back the tensioners off a bit, because I don't want them running tight on the belt. I don't have any issues with the tightness of the belt, and it does look like they're really easy to adjust. So the fun part is now going to be getting every one of these screws in without the little spacers sort of falling off. shouldn't be too bad to get these screwed in once we've got them started. So they're all in position. Just make sure your belt isn't stuck on the wrong side of the tensioners. So we've got us 8 screws. Just make sure that, because it wasn't really easy to see as I was putting these in, but there are 2 different sizes, and you just want to make sure your longest ones go in the innermost. You'll tell if they're not, because they kind of drop straight down and you've barely got any threads going into it. But as with all these, you've got quite fine threads just going into plastic, so I would just take my time with these and don't go crazy over tightening screws. I certainly like the look of this blue carbon. Now the one thing that certainly stands out at the moment is if we tried to put this together with the cover on, you'd now have your screw stuck. So I certainly think we do need to remove the black cover for the spur and pinion, and it does leave a gap in between. I'll try and show you that in a moment, see if I can get it on camera. So not sure if you'll be able to see, but there is actually a gap between the blue motor plate and the GPM sort of aluminium bracket. So that bracket has got a gap between it, so it should allow this shield to go back into position. Let's see if we can get it through. There's definitely a gap left between the two of them. So now we just need to find a way of lining the holes up. There is enough gap and the holes do line up properly. You just have to fiddle around with it to get that to go back down in place. Then we're going to use 2 of these tapered screws and should be able to fiddle around with this and get them to line back up so we can at least screw the top plate to the motor plate. Right, it does look like it's lining up, so let's see if we can get it to screw down. That's better. So you can get your gear cover back in and you just use 2 of the tapered headed screws. We definitely needed to take that off, else it would have been stuck, but not entirely sure why we've got a whole bunch of these screws left. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws left. Not sure if these are spare screws, so I don't know if they've given us spare ones in case we get any of these little things shear off, because I don't see any feasible way that that could sit down on the lower of the chassis because it'd hit the arms. But it does fit and it definitely stiffens the car up. So that is way stiffer, and it's really nice and easy to adjust the tension on the belt guides. So I'm quite impressed with that. That's very easy. And same for the front one. So I'll see if I can get you a shot of that, but basically just put the screwdriver in and then you can adjust away and then just nip it up and you've got the tension on the belt. Does give you somewhere else to mount your transponder, which is quite nice, and I think we should now be able to get our motor heatsink back on. Just don't want to trap my switch cable for the ESC. Come on, cable, get that way. There we go. So we can still have his motor cover on. And it definitely looks bling, and it definitely toughens that chassis up. So if it was an issue for you with the amount of play and twist in the chassis, then I can certainly say that this GPM top deck, it does completely eliminate it. And that really toughens it up. Mainly because you got 4 points at each end, and then it does tie the motor brace in, but it also stops flex that way. There's no sort of bending in between that now, and it is really nice that you've got a proper way of tensioning the belt. Not that I've had an issue with belt jumping on this, but then again, we are only running 20-turn motors. But quite impressed with that, and much easier to fit than I thought. You've just, the only things to be aware of is when you put these little when you put the little standoffs in, make sure you have the highest point, the step, to the rear or to the inner of the RC, and then when you're putting these screws in, you want the slightly longer ones again to the inside. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. That does go in, you just have to sort of force it in and then line it up with the two holes. If it seems like it's not lining up right, just play around with it and it goes in there fine. But yeah, quite like the blue carbon that they've used as well. So let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the GPM carbon deck on the TA08 Pro. Really impressive little car, this. It's got to be the most sort of, you can run it straight as it comes out box. I've not changed the servo saver or anything on this. It's literally just kit stock and it runs absolutely fantastic. Not really had to play around with suspension. No issues with it at all. The only slight problem I've had is at the rear. Somebody hit it really hard and it pulled one of these screws out, but it's screwed back in and it's not come out since. So would have been nice to see them come all the way through and probably put a nut on back just to tie them in properly. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.